Robert S. Abbott founded the Chicago Defender after his stepfather, John H. Sengstacke, told him that a newspaper was the strongest weapon for an African American. In 1905, Robert Abbott published the first issue of the Chicago Defender out of the small kitchen in his apartment. By World War I, 2/3 of the Defender's readers were located outside of Chicago. Robert S. Abbott achieved great success with the Chicago Defender, which served as the catalyst for the development of other black newspapers and the creation of the Associated Negro Press. Then, in 1940, Abbott passed the editorial duties of the Defender to his nephew, John H. Sengstacke. Under his leadership, John grew the Defender into an even more powerful voice for the black community. John H. Sengstacke's son, Robert, became involved with the paper at a very early age and went on to become the Chicago Defender's head photographer.
I started selling Chicago Defenders when I was 5 years old. I had my first job at the Defender when I was 7 years old, sealing envelopes in the circulation department. I went into it not because of society's pressure, not to please anybody, not living in a shadow, because it was part of me, and I love it, and I'm still about it today.
When John H. Sengstacke passed away in 1997, the Chicago Defender changed hands. Michael House is now the publisher and president of the Chicago Defender. The newspaper recently moved into its new home at 44th and King Drive. As you walk the halls, you see the history of the accomplishments of the Defender and the Abbott-Sengstacke legacy, as well as present achievements and relationships told through the pictures on the walls. One of those major achievements was the successfully launching a campaign that brought thousands of Southerners to the North from 1915 to 1925. Michael House carries on the legacy by using the desk and furniture that John Sengstacke used when he ran the newspaper.
John Sengstacke had a very strong relationship with 4 presidents, and he was called to the White House in many instances to give the opinion of the African American and black community as to, what were some of the concerns of our community. So with that connection to the highest office in the country, in many cases it gave the Defender a platform to talk about national issues that were important to our community as a whole.
Every day, people will go up in their attics or down in their basements and find old photographs and things that's been passed down from family member to family member. Can you imagine all of the old photographs, letters, and history that was passed down from Robert S. Abbott and John H. Sengstacke and held right here at the tower of the old Chicago Defender building to be passed down to their heirs? After his father's death, Robert Sengstacke inherited all the boxes that were stored in the tower of the old Chicago Defender building on 24th and Michigan. He had an idea of what these boxes held, but he wasn't quite sure of what to do with them.
The archivist at the Defender told me about Jackie Goldsby at the University of Chicago, and there was somebody I should talk to.
Dr. Jacqueline Goldsby is the Associate Professor in English Language and Literature at the University of Chicago and the Director of Mapping the Stacks, a guide to Black Chicago's hidden archives. In July of 2006, Dr. Goldsby finally got to meet Robert Sengstacke and take a look in the boxes. She was amazed at what she found.
Letters between and correspondence and documents between John Sengstacke and Harry Truman about the process and project of integrating the U.S. Armed Forces. And I told Bobby, okay, there's a lot here. I would love for my project to be able to work on this, but the first thing we had to do was to figure out what's in every box.
The paper stretched from the origins of the family in the 1840s up to 1997 with the death of John H. Sengstacke. Box after box brought discovery of historic treasures. Dr. Goldsby volunteered to devote her summer and her staff of graduate students to inventorying the collection, which came to 84 boxes. Realizing the amount of American and African American history the collection held, Dr. Goldsby went to Robert Sengstacke and said,
"Here's what you have. What do you want to do with it? And as a scholar, here's my estimation of its value. What do you want to do with it? Where do you want this to go?"
Robert already had some offers from prestigious institutions to buy the family papers, but after much thought and conversation with Michael Flug, one of the senior archivists for the Chicago Public Library, and Dr. Goldsby, Robert decided to donate the Abbott Sengstacke papers to the Vivian G. Harsh Collection at the Woodson Regional Branch of the Chicago Public Library. In 1908, Vivian G. Harsh became the first African-American librarian in the Chicago Public Library. Her work in the 1920s with Carter G. Woodson's organization, the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History, inspired Vivian Harsh to establish a special Negro collection in the Chicago Public Library system. It is now named the Vivian G. Harsh Collection and is the largest African-American history and literature collection in the Midwest and is the perfect home for the Abbott Sengstacke family papers.
The Abbott Sengstacke family papers are by far the largest collection anyone has ever acquired in the history of African-American journalism. It is a magnificent view, an inside view, behind-the-scenes view of the workings of African-American newspapers and of the family that created one.
At the dedication of the donation of the papers, Mayor Daley expressed the impact the Abbott Sengstacke family had on the history of Chicago.
The Abbott Sengstacke family has been the center of just about every significant social and political debate that has taken place in our city, in our country for the last 100 years. They have helped Chicago become what I believe is today, a city that has set a tone of tolerance, has worked to improve life for everyone, regardless of race, religion, sexual orientation, or economic background.
The Abbott Sengstacke family papers are available to anyone who would like to study them.
And I'm proud of the fact that the way it's being received now is because the Defender has been at the forefront of African-American journalism for 2 generations, 97 years. The history is here. It's in a good place.
For more information on the Abbott Sengstacke family papers, visit chicagopubliclibrary.org.